Hello everybody, my name is Mark Sage and welcome to the latest Area Thought Leaders webinar. Really excited to welcome you here today, and we will be talking about bridging the gap for enterprise AR adoption with one of our long-term members, Appearition, who are based in Melbourne, Australia. So again, I'll thank the guys, Vivek and Simon, who you hear from soon, for staying up very late at night to be able to give us a really interesting overview of their work. Just before we start that, just to like to give you a quick overview about the area for the people who don't know. So Simon, next slide, please. So the area is the global membership-funded not-for-profit alliance. We only focus on helping companies accelerate the adoption of enterprise AR, and we do that by supporting the growth of a comprehensive ecosystem. Next slide, please, Simon. Our members are in actually 3 different segments. We have the enterprises who are developing and deploying AR solutions. And what I find really interesting is they're across all sorts of different industries. So a lot of AR is about the kind of problems you need to solve, which are very similar across different industries. We have a bigger group of providers of AR solutions, and that includes hardware, software, platform providers, consultancies, and some of the kind of supporting technologies as well. And we're certainly seeing that area grow very strongly at the moment. And then finally, we have a number of organizations we kind of call our non-commercial organizations. So they're government agencies, research institutes, universities, and standards organizations. Often at the leading edge thinking of the AR space, and kind of bringing everybody together, we have a really kind of strong opportunity to learn from each other and develop best practice. Next slide, please, Simon. So what we do boils down to what we call our strategic pillars, or our 4 strategic pillars. First one is about delivering thought leadership into the ecosystem, and today's webinar is an example of that. What we're really focusing on is helping business decision makers understand what problems can be solved by using AR, so the use cases, providing examples of problems being solved, so the case studies, provide an opportunity to understand the technologies, and most importantly, we find this time and time again, supporting the ROI, the return on investment. How much does it cost to deploy these solutions, but more importantly, how much am I going to make or save? So that's very important, and we do that in numbers of different ways. Networking, bringing the ecosystem together, bringing the members together is also very important. It's really useful to learn from other organizations, to share those experiences, to build those partnerships and really gaining insights. So we have multiple ways of doing that. We also want to make sure we have a steady set of skilled workers coming into the industry. So through our Educate initiatives, working with universities and educational organizations to help them define courses, to provide guest lecturing, to help them with outplacements and setting them challenges and things like that. And then finally, and where a lot of focus and work is going on at the moment, is about reducing barriers to adoption. What we see in the industry is lots of great proof of concepts, pilots and prototypes, but not all of them are transferring into fully deployed solutions across the organization. So we're really focusing through our committees, which are kind of monthly meetings, focusing on some of the barriers to adoption, including security, safety, human factors, requirements, and research. And we have a very strong research capability looking at the challenges that organizations have and being able to provide research based on their needs. Next slide, please, Simon. Just to let you know that this is one of many webinars we've been doing over a number of years. You can find them on the Aiyer website under the resources page, and there's a number of different webinars, podcasts, and other videos there. And they cover all sorts of different areas, from our members' thought leadership to research, interoperability standards, safety and security. So please, if you get a chance, go to the Aiyer website or to the Aiyer YouTube channel, and there's a whole huge amount of information which hopefully you'll find useful. Next slide, please, Simon. Just to let you know that with with a lot of people, with everybody within the pandemic. We're continuing to run these webinars because we think it's a great way of providing information when we can't actually physically meet together. So there are a number of kind of events on the events page that will be happening over the coming weeks. And you can see a couple of examples here, and we'll be leading up to probably around mid-December with other webinars that we hope you'll find useful. Next page, please, Simon. Okay, so that's enough about the area. What I'm going to do now is to hand over to Vivek and Simon, who will introduce themselves. But just before I do that, as with all of our webinars, if you have any questions, please put your questions in the questions box, which you should see on your control panel. We will be answering some of them at the end of the webinar. If we don't get a chance to answer all of them, we do promise that we'll provide some written responses to the questions and send them to you after the event. The event is being recorded, so again, we'll also send you a link of the recording, and that will be hosted on the Aiyer website and YouTube channel, so you can go back and listen to parts of it again. And then also, Simon and Vivek will be playing a video. Now, we've had a few challenges with videos before, so hopefully this should be okay, but if it's not, the guys have also committed to sending a link to the video afterwards, or the video itself. I think it gives a good overview of some of the work that they're doing. So I'm going to now hand over to Vivek, the CEO of Appearition. Vivek, thank you very much, and it's over to you.
Thanks very much, Mark, for the introduction, and thanks very much to Aiyer for providing this opportunity to present to you all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world that you might be in. My name is Vivek Aiyer. I'm the founder and CEO of Appearition. We'll be presenting to you today some of our insights and some of a bit of our story and how we are bridging the gap for enterprise adoption, AR adoption. Thanks, Simon. I'll be joined by my colleague, Simon Galanakis, who's our platform architect. He'll actually be going through a little bit under the hood in terms of what we've built and how we got there. In terms of our approach today, we'll go through a little bit about what we believe is an approach for an inclusive future of work and why that's important. Some of the platform decisions we've made, and hopefully, as Mark said, we'll share a small video which goes and see if that works through as well. So thanks. Next one, Simon. Okay, a little bit about Appearition. Appearition was founded in 2014. It was a spin-off from another company that I founded, which is primarily a network and field services company in the telecommunications sector. My background is in the telco space, and our initial first dabblings of immersive tech was very much on how we could use it to view user manuals and things like that. And this is 2014, long time ago, when even VR was not as prevalent as what it is now. Funnily enough, that use case is still very strong, and we'll talk more about use cases as we go along in the presentation. About us, we will be talking about a platform that we've built, and it's been a journey to get to where we have. We'll talk about what led us to some of the main decisions we made. One of the interesting things is we went with the approach of building a headless content management system, and we'll explain what that is. In terms of a little bit about us, we've got our headquarters in Melbourne, Australia. I've got a sales and delivery office in Chennai in India, and we've also got a presence in Portland, Oregon. Very much a diverse team with various levels of expertise, right from marketing through to field services, through to head of engineering roles. So we've got a lot of different bunch of people working with us, and I'm quite happy to say that very proud of who we've got. Thanks, Simon. Okay, when we started looking at an inclusive future of work, what does that actually mean? And it's a term that gets used a lot. And one of the things I think which is very important, especially now for technology leaders, and especially people such as ourselves who are sort of working in this emerging technology space, more than ever, we have a moral and ethical responsibility in terms of the products and solutions we create. It's about sustainable ecosystems. It's about deriving value beyond just the shareholders. It's for us to start to look at the wider community and how we do that. And I think we've got a very unique opportunity in our lifetime in terms of defining how Industry 4.0 can offer these opportunities. With the advent of internet, when that first happened, we did not really have that, because there were selected countries and selected people with economic capabilities who were able to be connected and actually capitalize on some of the opportunities the early stage adoption of internet came in. But right now, we've got a global economy where every part of the world is connected through the internet, and we really got a way to harness the potential in every element, and look at how best we can actually make that happen. It's about creating opportunities, it's about creating economies, and it's about building a collaborative future of work. And our vision is to do that with, democratize the skills and content creation process. Thanks, Simon. As mentioned, we didn't, a little bit about our journey, we didn't start off by building a platform. The way our journey happened is at the outset, very early, we were doing a lot of projects. But what we realized with and although some of these projects were across multiple sectors or different kind of industry use cases, there were some real problems, and there was some commonality across the way that they had to be resolved. The disparate nature of these requests meant that we grew internal expertise on how to resolve them, and we grew internal tools as well. And with some of our customers who stayed with us over the, when they were piloting and innovating at the early stage, we became their trusted partner. So much of what we ended up doing in terms of building these internal tools were driven by these customer use cases. But what we didn't know that we were actually doing is that we had built a composable platform, which was a very modular framework. And over the last few years, as we've evolved this platform consistently, it's a tool that on its own becomes a very powerful solution for all kinds of immersive tech capabilities. And we're going to be talking through that in detail today. Thanks, Simon. As Mark mentioned earlier on, there's a lot from this statistic is from a Harvard Business Review survey, and the survey basically came up that 87% of respondents were actually exploring or piloting, but only 20% were actually doing deployment work. So what does that mean? If you kind of look at that, and if you look at the crossing the chasm approach, we're probably somewhere in the middle between the early adopters through to the early majority. In order to counter that, we developed a framework which we call a green spot framework, which is essentially a consulting-led approach, which went from ideation to concept to pilot to scale. One of the other important realizations that we made as a part of our journey, and a lot of my presentation is going to be about some of the mistakes that we've made in order to as a part of what we've done over the years and how we got over them. One of the things we realized very early, there is no one killer app. And quite often I used to go into meetings and there was always this thing, what's the killer app that's going to really bring immersive tech or augmented reality to mainstream? Well, there isn't one, and that's one of the things that we realized very early. But it is also quite important to understand what that means. there is no one killer app, but there's a set of digital solutions. But one important thing to consider with immersive tech is that these digital solutions, some of them have a finite life cycle. Just because they are a solution now does not mean that there will be a solution in 6 months' time. And why is that? It's because we believe very strongly a lot of these digital solutions are not just augmented reality based. They also have other dependencies of other technologies, such as IoT, such as analytics. So when we start to look at these emerging techs come into play, the evolving nature of the industry itself means a lot of the solutions right now are finite. So we needed to have a solution that you could build quickly, and in some case pivot quickly, and if all the criteria, all the business criteria were met, be able to scale. And last but not least, one of the key components of that enterprise adoption is that innovation is no longer led by technologists, and one size does not fit all. We need to have composable approach where business provides significant inputs in how a digital solution works. We've had situations where we've got customers, identical personas, identical demographic that they serve, but the use case is ever so slightly different, and it's just purely because the internal business criteria is different. Thanks, Simon. Okay, so as mentioned, what we went with is the green spot framework, which we developed. And if I had to sort of really talk high level about what the Appearition platform actually is, it's a digital enabler. It enables organizations to scale from idea to concept to commercialization really quickly. It's a headless CMS, so you'll hear more from Simon on how that works. But from it's an API-led framework which can integrate easily with existing and future digital solutions. So these digital solutions I'm referring to not just immersive tech, but other emerging technologies as well. The composable nature, we spoke about how the business stakeholders can participate directly in the development of applications. And the headless approach also meant that, we weren't tied into one specific hardware type. We've got the same platform that has delivered solutions in virtual reality, for HoloLens, also for mobile AR for multiple devices. So the flexibility of having a single platform across multiple forums is quite powerful. And last but not least is we've got some composed business applications, and what that allows for is that these are modules that have solve real world business problems that customers can very easily adopt and get up and running very quickly. And again, we'll show you a bit of how we're doing that. Thanks, Simon. So at this point, what I'll do is I'll hand it over to my colleague, Simon Galanakis. He's going to talk it in a little bit more detail as to how we have approached some of these challenges. Over to you, Simon.
Great, thank you, Vivek. Okay, so let me start by covering some of the challenges that customers are facing in adopting AR technology. So firstly, they're concerned that the technology can be reusable and repeatable. So the main concept here is composable thinking, which brings together the technology and the business functionality. Modularity is the concept of having packaged capabilities, which are clearly defined and contained to be reused like Lego blocks. A modular framework supports the concept of a composable architecture, where each module can be activated to compose different projects and solutions. So composability is indeed an emerging factor we are seeing, and it's where existing reusable components and replicable configurations and environments can be brought together to solve a varying range of use cases. Discovery of function is an important concern with reusability. Having a marketplace or a catalog of available modules and what they do and how they work is important. APIs are the hooks and handles to those modules, and those are needed by the technical teams to consume and integrate with. And we're talking about self-documenting and self-describing APIs, which are critical for teams as they strive to discover what they can use and how they can use it. Then there is content. Look, without content, there is no AR, and content comes in two forms. First of all, digital assets, and these include PDFs and videos and images, and these are readily available these days in the organization. But there's also 3D models, digital representations of real life objects, digital twins, as you would probably be hearing around. And sourcing these is a challenge for industry today. Organizations need to know how they can discover and source relevant and appropriate digital assets. Data is yet another form of content, and this takes the form of IoT data that comes from the sensors and across the internet, or even data that's been processed through some kind of ML AI to give us some kind of predictive analysis on a situation. So all these content, data, and digital assets are then part of the concept of a content composition. And this is where we can be able to draw from those various sources and deliver contextually relevant experiences. And that's a very important aspect for customers. Interoperability. So the technology must conform to some kind of industry standard. So think of HTML. You can create it in any text editor and view it in any browser worldwide. Well, AR experiences should also follow this concept, because an experience created for the benefit of one organization solving a problem may well be realized in other organizations as well. And it's why bodies such as the IEEE Computer Society or the Open Geospatial Consortium, they're working hard and have produced standards and are continuing with standards like the ARLM or the ARML, so that there's a standardized language in the industry, data exchange formats that can be used for interoperability. Now, that's kind of a thought about content interoperability, but the technology itself needs to participate and coexist within the wider existing enterprise system. It can't just stand alone. So it has to meet the standards of connectivity, data exchange formats, data protection, etc. The second challenge is around scalability. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is, cloud infrastructure and elasticity, which is very important. Being able to provision the resources to, meet the current demand without exceeding demand, without exceeding the resources. Underutilized server resources are a problem. So auto scaling sort of deals with that. There's metering and monitoring of APIs and usage, and these are all important considerations that the technology solution must address. However, scalability is also important in the context of the enterprise being able to move from building just those small pilot projects into kind of full-scale, maybe even mission-critical implementations. So eventually, as Vivek mentioned, 87% of respondents in the Harvard survey, are doing proof of concepts. Okay, eventually they will realize the benefits and will want to be able to know if the technology can stack up. And then there is scaling of the workforce. So how quickly can they onboard new staff to pick up and run with project delivery and content creation? Does the technology empower semi-technical staff with low-code tools to be able to configure projects and interact with the technology and to compose the solutions? And finally, if there's any aspect of the technology which demands for skilled technical resources, does it empower them to discover and reuse the modules or extend the technology to customize and increase that capability? Third, and by no means least, of course, is security. And no matter what technology is being used, it must ensure that all the appropriate measures are in place to protect sensitive data and assets of the enterprise. We know Aiyer is doing a lot of progressive work around this space, and it's very important and to highlight that AR technology touches all aspects of data responsibility, which must be considered at all levels and stages of adoption. The final point that I'm going to make with this slide is, and this is probably maybe a key deciding factor, customers will only adopt immersive technology or any technology for that matter if it can answer one of these three questions. Will it make money? Will it save money? Or will it fulfill some kind of regulatory compliance obligation? Okay, so, and it's because of those three major points that customers have the need to rapidly pilot small projects so that they can evaluate and understand the opportunities of the technology, so that they can make a decision if ongoing funding and resource investment is appropriate. One concept which is critical in this is the approach of low code. You see, an enterprise wants to be able to quickly and with minimal budget, of course, create experiences to evaluate their benefits. But beyond that, the enterprise will then seek to scale up and wanting to add more resources and create more experiences so that they can serve more of their solutions and projects. Now, setting up in-house capability for this does come at a cost and with risk too. You know, specialist developers, who these days tend to be few and far between, need to be onboarded and considerable time spent ramping up the tools and the infrastructure for such projects before experiences can be created. So low code then works by reducing the barrier of adding immersive tech. Now you can empower semi-technical staff to be able to set up and configure a project and almost immediately begin creating experiences. So there are three major areas where low code can be applied. That is, you know, setting up accounts and configuring the environment, you know, provisioning infrastructure resources, activating modules, configuring data connections and connecting to data to digital libraries, and then registering apps and systems for secure access onto the platform. The second area where low code works is for creating experiences. Now, being able to build an experience using drag and drop, being able to decide whether your experience is markerless or whether it's triggered off some kind of image or marker, being able to connect to data sources and bring them in so that you can visualize some data, and of course, sourcing and finding the digital content that will provide that real rich experience. And of course, third, and this is where low code approach is beneficial, is the presentation of the experience. So triggering and viewing it, whether it's via a generic app or via a white label app or via a an enterprise specific app which is adopting immersive technology. Now, at Appearition, we have understood this is an important factor, and we have created our platform to be that digital enabler. So, you know, we are not really giving enterprise an end solution. but rather we're empowering them to use their existing resources with the tools and the capability to create and evaluate and scale immersive technology. Okay, so I've talked about low code, but then there's of course a need for code. So when do we need to introduce code to immersive tech? Well, firstly, when you want to show an immersive experience in your own front-end app, you'll need to engage developers. The immersive tech platform would need to provide the necessary tools, be it SDKs or APIs and documentation, sample code, tutorials, whatever, so that developers are empowered with the knowledge and the ability to incorporate it into their apps. So on the right here, I have some screenshots of some front ends that we have built for different customer projects and solutions, all of which are talking back to the one platform. The next part of when you'll need code is when you want to integrate with existing business systems and workflows within the organization. So whilst a platform will contain pre-built modules that can handle many situations, some organizations have a unique or even a customized technology stack that needs custom logic to connect with. So again, in such cases, developers would need to be empowered with the necessary tools to create the modules or extend existing modules to be able to deliver on that capability. And finally, there are continuous and rapid changes happening to this industry. So being able to keep up and quickly adapt as the landscape evolves is critical for success. We are seeing new and improved hardware, phones with faster processors, more robust and functional wearables, better recognition software with AI, and better network connectivity with 5G as it becomes more widely available. And with all this, you want a platform that can also evolve and adapt. And this is a time too when code would be required. So this brings us to the concept of a headless content management system, and Vivek touched upon that earlier. What is it? What is a headless CMS? Well, first and foremost, it is an API-centric service. So on the right here, you can see a block diagram representing a headless CMS architecture. From the top down, we are depicting the various kind of front ends which can consume APIs and present the immersive experience. Now, each front end will have different format requirements and different rendering capabilities. And this is the key benefit of a headless CMS. Experiences can be created and managed on the one platform, but served through the API to a wide range of apps and on a wide range of devices. It is the responsibility, therefore, of the app on that device to decide how and what to render. Now, SDKs help here a lot, and they wrap the API calls and they provide the necessary contextual signals to the platform to decide if any special formatting or any device-specific needs are required when serving these experiences. Further down the stack are the packaged capabilities of modules, and each module reveals a set of APIs that are compliant with enterprise standards and are discoverable, well documented, and even self-documenting. And to round this up, scaffolding and the core are parts of the underlying platform which enable extensibility, scalability, and all of the other qualities that an enterprise platform should provide. So headless is not just API. It can also be user interface. Now, albeit the underlying communication between the UI and the modules are through APIs. Yeah, but nonetheless, headless user interface is a valid consideration. At its simplest level, it can be a generic app which connects to the platform and presents contextually relevant experiences, based on the user profile. At another level, it can be a white labeled app, which requires minimal configuration to connect to a specific project on the platform to deliver those immersive experiences. And finally, in a more traditional viewpoint would be embedded UI widgets. And this is an evolving concept, but think HTML and iframes and how YouTube or Vimeo as examples will provide you a snippet of HTML code to embed onto a web page. Well, the same applies here to immersive tech. The final point to the headless approach is the ability to adapt to existing monolithic systems. Now, these are large and more often legacy systems where both transactional and operational data reside. You see these in long-standing financial institutions, insurance companies, stockbroking firms, etc. If an enterprise with such a system wants to respond to market opportunities, they will need to be able to connect to a platform that can be and be adapted to communicate with the system. Now, in these situations, I'm not downplaying the important role that enterprise architecture will play here. However, having an immersive tech platform that is ready to adapt and enable an enterprise is very important. I mean, think of a headless CMS as a composition layer on top of the monolithic system, extensible so that developers can add modules and act as adapters to the underlying monolithic system, effectively becoming a middleware layer. So, as a final point that I'd like to make and emphasize is that Appearition is not a hardware provider. Rather, we have built a platform that can work with different hardware solutions and act as a digital enabler for enterprise. And this is why it is so relevant in the context of a headless CMS and low-code approaches. No matter what the use case, no matter how the industry evolves, no matter how fast or how small or how flexible hardware becomes, you can empower customers with the flexibility to connect to existing data and content and build experiences with low code and let them decide what kind of front end they wish to use something out of the box or something customized to their needs. So I'm going to next show you the Appearition platform at work. But to give you some context, the Appearition platform is an example of future-proof composable platform. With it, we have been able to build solutions for customers across various industry verticals. On the right here, you can see Educard and FlowAR and other solutions such as retail and real estate. All these have become templated solutions that actually have solved real-life business problems. All these are effectively a composition of various modules, packaged business capabilities, PBCs, with their own specific front ends. Okay, so to wrap all this up, I'm going to show you a video demonstrating how we have taken all that knowledge and learning and built this composable platform to meet the customer challenges and opportunities of enterprise. Now, I'm going to be, as Mark mentioned, showing you a video. I'm going to be talking over the video, so there's no sound. Again, apologies in advance if the video does not come through clearly. We will be sharing a link to this video after our webinar, so you'll be able to view it in your own time if we have issues. Okay. So I'm just going to pause it here for a sec. In the first part, you're going to see how a non-technical user would go about setting up a project environment and prepare it for creating experiences. So again, if this is not appearing, I apologize, but what the video is showing is you know, a simple account creation step where we're adding a new customer to the system, and a tenant is being provisioned for that customer. Now, tenancy or a multi-tenanted framework is not a new concept, of course, but it works really well on an immersive platform, as it allows you to customize and configure an isolated environment for a specific project or solution. I've paused the video. In this next part, I'm going to show you the package manager part of the platform. And this is where modules can be activated and configured within a particular tenant. Just going to play the video and hope for the best. Remember, each module represents a packaged business capability. Now, this could include inventory and stock management, you know, location and site management, dynamic forms. But modules exist also for data integrations. And I'm just pausing there for a sec. You know, connecting to IoT data sources, you know, internal corporate databases like SQL or Oracle, and connecting to data lakes. And also modules can exist to connect to the content libraries for accessing digital content such as 3D models and videos and images. The next part of the video, you'll see an example of how we can register an app against the platform. And you know, this is a mechanism for controlling and restricting access to the content in the system. So, you know, again, keeping in mind security and protection is, you know, is a very important consideration. Now, I've spoken about discoverable and self-documenting APIs. Swagger is an open source framework which we have incorporated into the platform, and it provides the capability very well for discovering and trying out APIs. You know, for the various modules that get activated for a tenant, the set of APIs that expose that functionality of the module can be explored and tested and tried out. And of course, as with any good API system, documentation, you know, is readily available. You know, information, concepts, tutorials, and of course, a place where you can download SDKs and get support as you need to. All right, just pause the video there for a second. So once the project and the environment has been set up and modules are ready and you've explored the APIs, now is when you can go ahead and start creating experiences. So, and I'll just play the video and again, hope for the best. What you're going to be seeing here is our studio, which is a HTML front end built to allow non-technical users the ability to drag and drop content and connect to data sources to be able to visualize real experiences. So as part of the creation process, and I've just paused the video for benefit, is the ability to connect to digital content, and the content library of our platform exposes that. Now, this is where there's a library that you can upload and store your own content, but there are modules that can be activated which allow you to connect to external content libraries or internal enterprise libraries. Now, I'll play again. In this demo, I've simply uploaded a model of an engine, and I'm going to be using it as a markerless experience for another front-end app to show. And yeah, you'll see that shortly, hopefully, as the video progresses. Now, this low-code approach makes it easy and quick for an experience to be created. And equally easy to add data. So in this part, I'm adding data labels to my experience where each label, for each label, I can point it to a particular data source. I can set up how the data should be pulled in. So if it's JSON, I can extract particular fields, for example. I can then pretty it up and size and control and place the label and make it sit anywhere I want relative to that 3D model. And literally within a few minutes, I'm able to create an experience and be able to connect it to data. And this is truly the benefits of a low-code approach to connecting, to adopting immersive tech. So here in this, and I'll just pause it for a moment. This is visualizing the experience from a different front-end app, and this is a simple app build which is connecting to the platform through the APIs and delivering the experience that I've built in the system. Okay, well, look, I hope that has given you some insight and some good information that you can take away. I will now hand over to Vivek so we can continue with the rest of the presentation. Thank you, Vivek, over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Simon. To the rest of the audience, if you do have any questions, please whack it in the question box and we'll certainly get back to you. And Simon did cover a lot of interesting items, so be more. Thanks for that, Simon. If I could just ask you to go to the next slide. So we spoke earlier on when I first started talking about a sustainable and ethical ecosystem. Our platform being the headless and a composable approach means that what we are really looking at is enabling the success of others. And when we talk about enabling the success of others, it's about our partners and about our partners' customers and their end customers as well. We've had multiple scenarios where our clients have actually initially piloted and implemented an immersive tech solution. And since the content belongs to them, what they've actually done is they've actually taken that and monetized it. They've actually sold that to other customers. Some of their customers as well. So the idea we're trying to do with this approach is really build the ecosystem. The second element that I want to just talk about really quickly here, you would have noticed the whole aspect of content libraries. We've got content libraries on our platform from companies from the Maldives, companies from Czechoslovakia, companies from India. So it's very much a system where we can sort of provide real value add for the entire ecosystem. Thanks, Simon. So this talks about how they can monetize. So essentially, we go with the approach where with some of the content that gets created and utilized, there's an ongoing monetization approach. The integration partners are a key component for our success. We work with multiple integration partners who can actually, value add resell our solution and also build capabilities on top of that. The developer community is also very important, whether it's for adding plugins or modules, or also in terms of solving very specific problems. And last but not least, the enterprise. And we've gone through quite a few discussions on that. But in summary, I think Simon articulated really well. The platform is a digital enabler that enables organizations to start multiple digital projects and scale accordingly based on what they wish to do. Thanks, Simon. I won't go through this in too much detail. I'm just conscious of time, but I guess the key point for us is about how can value be gained for each persona. Again, you know, if our platform is successful is if all of our partners are actually monetizing it and making significant revenue through it. Our approach is how can we democratize the process and create some genuine value. Thanks, Simon. And this is an important slide for us, is in terms of where we see some of the evolution of immersive tech. One key element which we're exploring right now with a couple of our customers is especially around the 5G use cases, how an API-led approach can serve immersive content, especially for the low latency, high bandwidth applications. So these are use cases within the telecommunication vendor customers. A little bit about change management. I think one of the things for us right at the outset we realized is that this is not just a technology sale. This is very much has to be led by change management frameworks. We in fact are sponsoring a PhD who's an organizational psychologist that's working with us, and his main role or his main area of research is around trust factors and what constitutes a worker or a person to trust a system and in turn adopt it as a part of their workflow. And we will continue to do these kind of frameworks where we see in the industry, you know, there's a lot of early stage frameworks in place in terms of conceptualization, ideation. There's also things, you know, there are some change management frameworks, although they're still evolving as we speak. But we have found that there are very few deployment frameworks, and this is an area that we will be looking at as well going into the future. And last but not least, the content will be the key. For us to actually, you know, really scale, we're looking at how can we have content centers of excellence, and these need to be in developing countries, and how can they really scale and allow for us to solve the content issue. These are the kind of big problems that we're looking at solving. And I think one of the other final points for us, I think enterprises need to start looking at this not just as a technology solution, but as a content solution, similar to the way we looked at, you know, video, or similar to the way we looked at handout. It's not about technology, it's about how can this content add value in terms of what they're doing. Thanks, Simon. So it's a little bit about us. Again, as I mentioned earlier on, very proud of our team. We're a diverse and experienced team. We built a culture of resilience. We've been at this for a little while. We're excited about the unique opportunity that we have to stay and shape the future of work. Thanks, Simon. So if I could just summarize in terms of where we are, our enterprise journey has brought us here. A lot of scars along the way, and a lot of experience that we've had with customer projects and deployments. Most of our platform initiatives have been customer led, and we're very proud of our composable platform. The composable platform itself, adopting a low-code platform technology combined with appropriate use of professional code and no-code tools provides outcomes. It's a single platform but allows for both PaaS and SaaS revenue models. Scalability and security are key features. The changing nature of immersive text means that this approach means they can evolve slowly and be able to act solutions bespoke to what their requirements are. Our very much, our areas of expertise. We have worked in the enterprise for many years, and we've also worked a lot with research organizations and really looking at what the future of work and what the future of tomorrow looks like. Our partner ecosystem is a key for us, and it's very much about how can we build a sustainable, ethical, and inclusive ecosystem that'll help us grow. Thank you very much for your time. I did have to rush a little bit. I just wanted to give a little bit of space for questions at the end as well. Greatly appreciate the opportunity. So thanks very much, Mark and the area, for giving us this opportunity to present. Please do put any questions through. Otherwise, we'd be more than happy to also get back to you at a later stage if you wish to drop a line. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Vivek. I found that really interesting and fascinating. The whole part or the theme about building and supporting the kind of ecosystem around immersive technology, is truly important and something that's dear to my heart and to the area as well. And your scars, I think, of learning about this is more than just technology. It's about a change management part and bringing value really quickly to organizations through your, and I love the term headless CMS. So I know we have got one question. I've got a couple of questions which will allow the rest of the listeners maybe a chance to think of something as well that's burning. But we have a question about which devices do you support? Can you talk a little bit to that?
Sure, I'll start and Simon jump in if I say something wrong. I guess we at this stage, we have worked with an array of devices. In terms of, from a wearables perspective, we have worked with HoloLens, we have worked with the Epsons, we have worked with, what else have we worked with? The HTCs, and also the Samsung VR gear. From a mobile AR perspective, across the whole gamut, whether it's Android, iPhone, and Windows, the whole series. The headless approach, what it actually means is for us, it's not a huge challenge to, as long as we can have access to the APIs, be able to integrate new devices on board, and that's one of the key features of why we designed it in this particular way.
And do you find the customers are asking for particular devices, or you go through the process of understanding the needs and recommend the kind of devices? How does that process work?
Yeah, it depends on the use case, Mark. You're 100% right. And a lot of times, one of the interesting things what we found, we did a project with Epson and Mercedes, and locally in Australia. And one of the things that they wanted to showcase some of their Moverio capabilities. But in addition to that, they also wanted an Android solution as well. So what we have found is in areas where it's a requirement to have both wearables as well as a mobile solution, it works really well. So it depends really on the customer use cases as to which device. We don't, as I said, as Simon mentioned, we don't have a preference for any one of them. I guess it's more driven by what the objectives are.
Perfect, thank you. We have another question I'd like to ask from the attendees. What are the typical or most common clients, and clients as in software, not customers, that consume consume data from your back end? Probably one more for Simon.
Well, we've built quite a few.
You want to talk about the Splunk scenario, perhaps, Simon?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. So we created a proof of concept for the Splunk, and actually maybe you're better off with this, Vivek. Maybe you should explain this.
Yeah, sure. So in one of the we worked with Splunk and presented at the .conf a few years ago, and I guess the use case which was in that particular scenario was to consider it was two-way things. One was actually bring in Splunk data, which then it triggered off a AR workflow, but also make changes on the hardware device on site and feed that back upwards. I'm not sure if that specifically answered your question or not. Is that what you were referring to, where we talk about being able to talk back to enterprise systems? If I haven't answered it, please do let me know and we'll get back to you.
Perfect. Okay. Guys, we come to the top of the hour. That's been really insightful. As I mentioned at the start, we'll be sharing this webinar, and I'll send a link to everybody as well. But I want to thank you guys, especially seeing it's something crazy like 1 a.m. in the morning in Melbourne. But I'm sure everyone agrees that's been very insightful, and I look forward to continuing working with you. And I wish everybody the rest of a good day. And thanks very much again for your attendance today. Goodbye, everybody.